It was late afternoon in Portland, Oregon, and golden sunlight stretched across my kitchen floor like a promise. I had just poured myself a cup of chamomile tea when my phone buzzed against the counter. The message from my daughter was 8 words that changed everything. "Don't come to my wedding. You're no longer my family." I stood there holding the phone, steam from my tea rising between us like a fragile barrier. For a moment, I could only hear the hum of the refrigerator and the soft tick of the clock above my pantry door. Those words felt heavy enough to steal my breath. My name is Florence Harper. I'm 64 years old, a widow for 12 years, living in a small craftsman house just outside the city. I spent decades as a senior accountant for a construction firm, keeping books balanced and numbers honest. These days, I make ends meet on my pension and part-time shifts at the public library. I've learned to live simply, and until this moment, I thought I was content. That was before my own child erased me with a text message. The message pulled me back to our conversation just 3 days earlier. Samantha had shown up unannounced, her shiny new SUV still ticking in my driveway. She swept into my kitchen trailing expensive perfume and announced she needed $30,000 for her wedding in Napa Valley. She spoke as if it were perfectly reasonable, as if I could simply reach into a drawer and produce it. "I can give you $8,000, I told her carefully. Even that would require shuffling my savings. The number barely passed my lips before her eyes narrowed. "8,000 is nothing," she said, her voice sharp with disappointment. "Gregory's parents are paying for the venue, the flowers, the band. A real mother would find a way." Her words cut deeper than I expected. I knew about the Whitmores. Gregory's family owned a chain of luxury resorts and were well known for their wealth. They'd bought Samantha that SUV as an engagement gift. Now she stood in my kitchen, comparing me to them as if 28 years of being her mother could be outweighed by their bank account. "I can't give you more," I said quietly. "That's almost half my retirement savings. I'll need it for the years ahead." She rolled her eyes. "I don't want to have this conversation again." She walked out, heels clicking across my porch, the sound fading as the SUV pulled away. I stood at the window, my tea gone cold, and watched her disappear down the street. 28 years of motherhood, erased in a single afternoon. I turned toward the living room where Peter's photograph sat on the mantel. My husband had been gone 12 years, but the kindness in his eyes never faded from that picture. I remembered him telling me once, back when we were young and thought time was endless, that when truth is on your side, time will bring it to light. I ran my fingers along the frame, feeling the weight of those words. They felt different now, heavier, as if they were asking something of me. The kitchen dimmed as the sun slid lower, golden light cooling to amber shadows. I set my tea aside and walked to the small desk by the window, pulling my phone from my pocket. I scrolled through contacts until I found a name I hadn't spoken aloud in years. Evelyn Brooks. She'd been a friend long before life pulled us in different directions. Years ago, she worked as a financial investigator, the kind of person who could follow a paper trail to its very end. I'd once helped her escape a trap set by a dishonest investment advisor, and she'd told me that if I ever needed anything, I only had to call. I sat with my thumb over her name, listening to evening sounds drifting through the neighborhood. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked twice and fell silent. A car door slammed, the muffled sound of an engine starting. My heartbeat was steady, not fast. This wasn't a decision made in anger. It was something colder, clearer. I pressed the call button. As it rang, I knew the next chapter had already begun, even if Samantha couldn't see it coming yet. "Florence." Evelyn's voice came through the line, a little older but still carrying that sharp confidence I remembered. "I haven't heard from you in years. What's going on?" I took a slow breath. "I need a full background check on the Whitmore family. Every detail about their finances, assets, and business dealings." The words came out steady, with none of the tremor I'd felt just days ago. This wasn't about feelings anymore. This was about facts. There was a pause. "Florence, that's heavy work," she said carefully. "What's the reason?" I sipped my tea, letting the warmth steady me. "Let's just say I have reason to believe they're not what they seem." Silence stretched between us. Then I heard the faint creak of her chair as she leaned back. "You saved me once," she said finally. "I won't forget that." "All right, I'll take it. But this kind of investigation isn't quick. 1 week for a thorough job. I'll need a 2,500 retainer." "That's fine," I said. "It'll come from my savings. I want this done right." When the call ended, I set the phone down and wrapped my hands around my teacup. Outside, the sky was shifting to cooler shades, evening sliding across the quiet street. My heart no longer felt heavy, it felt anchored. The first step was taken. Now the waiting began, not to be heard but for the truth, and I intended to use it. 3 days later, Evelyn appeared at my door just after lunch, a manila folder tucked under her arm. She stepped inside without ceremony, set the folder on my kitchen table, and slid into the chair across from me. "You should see this," she said, her tone flat but carrying an edge that made my stomach tighten. I pulled the folder closer and opened it. The first page was a summary that made my accountant's blood run cold. Gregory Whitmore and his parents were moving large amounts of unreported income through their resorts and a network of event companies that didn't actually exist. I turned each page slowly. Invoice after invoice from catering services with elegant names, all billing tens of thousands of dollars, yet none had legitimate business records. One company's address was an empty lot. Another's phone number led to a disconnected line. Bank statements showed deposits of $50,000 and $60,000 at odd intervals. Always cash, never tied to traceable clients. The paper trail looked tidy on the surface, but to someone like me, it was glaringly false. "This is just the preliminary pull from public filings," Evelyn said, arms crossed. I dig deeper. I'll find more. My eyes lingered on a photograph clipped to one page. The Whitmores at a ribbon cutting for one of their properties. All smiles and charm, the picture of success. Samantha had posted this exact photo online a week ago with a caption calling them her real parents. The words echoed in my head, sour and bitter. My daughter had chosen these people for what they could give her. Money, gifts, a lifestyle I could never offer. Now I knew exactly what that lifestyle was built on. I closed the folder and kept my hand on it, as if holding it down would keep the truth from spilling across my kitchen. "If she chose them for their money," I said quietly, "she'll learn where that money comes from." This was no longer just about a wedding. This was about showing her the truth in a way she could never ignore. The Whitmore Resort in Napa Valley looked like something from a glossy magazine. The sun slid toward the horizon, turning vineyards into waves of gold and shadow. Strings of lights hung between white columns, and the air carried the scent of roses and expensive wine. Guests moved in clusters across the manicured lawn, their clothes as polished as the marble walkways. A string quartet played softly, notes floating just above the sound of laughter. An usher led me to my seat in the third row. In front of me sat the Whitmore family and their business associates, all perfectly dressed and perfectly pleased with themselves. I sat down, placing my handbag carefully on my lap. Inside was a leather envelope, its weight small but certain. My fingers brushed it through the fabric as I reminded myself why I was here. The music shifted, and guests rose. Gregory appeared first, tall and smiling in his crisp tuxedo. Then came Samantha, her ivory silk dress catching the sunset's glow. Her arm was linked through Margaret Whitmore's, the woman holding her hand with the warmth and possession of a mother who believed she owned the moment. They walked slowly down the aisle, smiles fixed for cameras clicking from both sides. From where I stood, I could see Samantha lean toward Margaret, whispering something that made them both smile. The image was perfect for anyone who didn't know better. But I knew. I knew about the fake invoices and shell companies. I knew about the cash deposits timed to avoid suspicion. Every piddle in those rose arrangements, every drop of champagne in those crystal flutes, had been paid for with money that was never theirs to keep. I sat when others sat, my eyes on Samantha as she took her place at the altar. Around me, guests shifted in their chairs, the setting sun casting long shadows across the aisle. I could feel my heartbeat in my fingertips, steady but strong. This was their stage, dressed in gold and glass, and they thought the story would end as they'd planned. The truth in my handbag said otherwise. The reception hall shimmered under crystal chandeliers. Tables gleamed with white linen and gold-rimmed china, each centerpiece a tower of roses and orchids. Laughter mixed with the clink of glasses as servers moved between tables with champagne. I sat quietly at my assigned seat, watching Samantha glide from guest to guest in her silk gown. When she reached my table, she spotted the leather envelope I'd placed beside her champagne flute. She picked it up with a curious smile. "What's this, mother?" The word mother hung in the air between us. The first time she'd used it all evening. I met her eyes steadily. "Open it," I said simply. Her fingers worked at the envelope's clasp. Inside were copies of everything Evelyn had found: bank statements, fake invoices, Corporate records showing the elaborate money laundering scheme that had paid for every luxury the Whitmores had showered upon her. I watched her face change as she read, the color draining from her cheeks like water from a broken vessel. "Where did you get this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible above the reception's cheerful noise. "From someone who knows how to follow money trails," I said calmly. "Someone who understands that when numbers don't add up, there's usually a reason." She looked up at me, then back at the papers, her hands trembling slightly. Around us, the reception continued. Guests laughing, the band playing, Gregory's parents holding court at the head table, completely unaware that their carefully constructed world was unraveling in real time. "I tried to give you what I could," I continued, my voice steady. $8,000 from my retirement savings, earned honestly over 30 years. You said it wasn't enough. That a real mother would find a way to give more. I gestured toward the papers in her hands. "Well, now you know how your new family found their way to give you more. Every gift, every payment, every luxury, bought with money stolen from people who trusted them." Samantha's eyes filled with tears, but I felt no satisfaction in them. This wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. "You chose them over me because of what they could provide," I said quietly. "You called them your real parents because they had more money than I did. I hope their money was worth losing your actual mother over." I stood up, smoothing my simple dress. The one I'd bought at a department store with my honest pension money. "I love you, Samantha, I always will. But I won't stand by and watch you build your life on stolen foundations without at least trying to show you the truth." I picked up my purse and walked away, leaving her there with the evidence scattered across the white linen, the golden light of the chandeliers casting everything in a harsh, revealing glow. 2 weeks later, I was reading in my garden when my phone rang. Samantha's name appeared on the screen. "Mom," her voice was small, uncertain. I set down my book and looked out at the roses Peter had planted years ago, simple flowers but beautiful in their honesty. "Yes," I said quietly. "We can talk."